Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So this is going to be the watch list for Monday, December 16th. So we do have a jam-packed week ahead of us. Most importantly, on Wednesday is going to be the FOMC's interest rate decision, along with Jerome Powell's press conference at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So as you guys know, I would definitely say Wednesday is totally game off. Just sit on the sidelines and let the market play out however it's going to play. And then if you want to take a trade, take it post press conference. So let's take a look at Monday. Monday, we're going to have some PMI numbers. So we'll want to let those drop that are going to be 15 minutes into the market open. So give it a little bit of room there. Then on Tuesday, same thing. We're going to have some industrial production, and then we're going to have the Home Builders Confidence Index at 10 o'clock. This one I think is going to be somewhat important, and we're going to actually take a look at one of the home builders today, but they have had an aggressive sell-off, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that inflation is still very high when it comes to homes and home prices, and there could be more room to the downside there. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have our housing starts, building permits, and then again, as I stated, our FOMC in the afternoon. And then Thursday, we're going to have jobless claims, existing home sales, and more GDP and economic indicators. And then Friday, yet again, another big day with PCE and personal spending. So make sure you're very cognizant of when the news is dropping. Is it going to be pre-market open, which is going to be 9:30 a.m. Eastern? Is it going to be while the market is open, like this right here at 9:15? Or are we going to have a 10 o'clock news event 30 minutes in? But other than Wednesday, anything after 10 o'clock, you should be good to go. So let's take a look at a couple of the charts. And I'm going to start with QQQ hitting new all-time highs. And again, I think I've shared this with many of you in the Discord, but it is extremely challenging to somewhat trade something that is at an all-time high. Reason being is you have fairly decent support levels, like I do down here at 523, but anything above it is going to be quite challenging. So what I'm going to watch on QQQ is a couple of things. This candle on Friday is horrific, right? That is, you want to talk about pure indecision. So great day to trade, but a really hard day to trade if you were on the wrong side of the fence. So let's go down to a 4-hour and see what we got here. You can kind of see that what I did is I took a fib level from this pivot low to this pivot high. And what I want to see is, do we get a bounce at 529.37? Now, if we come down to a lower time frame on the 1 hour, you'll see that we did not quite get there. So we came down to 529.42, give or take. And then I want to see, are we going to reject this 530 number, come down and retest this and move higher? Or do we fail this 50% fib and then head down to the 618, which is 528.47? Now, if we miss this 528 for all intensive purposes, I think we're definitely going down to this 527. And then if we drop below that, then I would definitely look for this pivot right here, which is where we started the fib of 525. We break 525, then 523 is in the cards, and then down to 521. Now, I think you're just going to have to be overly patient with this to see how this plays out, but you'll see that as we approach the fib, didn't touch it, it's just been kind of grinding up. So let's watch this. My reject would be at 530 or a break above to hold and then go higher. And then again, my next reject is going to be the next pivot. So the next pivot is going to be right here at 531. We would need to clear 531 in order for us to get back to these all-time highs up here of literally 533. So that's how you're going to trade and market at all-time highs. Definitely use the fibs, use your prior pivots as your target points for liquidity, because that's what the market's going to seek. And then again, if we fail the 50, 618 would be my next level, where you could see they bounced it here, but then we go down to the 527. We fail 527, then we're down to 525. So that's how I'd watch that. SPY is a little bit cleaner. You can see my levels. I'm going to keep them. I'm not adding any levels. I'm not taking any levels away. If we go back here to the left, you'll see that my 603 was prior resistance that turned to support. They did break through it in the after hours, but I'm more worried about the market open where it held here, pushed all the way up to liquidity. We came down, and then I was using an interim target, which again was this pivot at 605.70. When we lost that, we went to 604, and now we're just kind of oscillating right back here between 604.32 and 603.35. So we need to reclaim this with strength to go higher, or we need to lose this level, 603.35, to head lower, and then my next lower price target would be 600, 599.64. So then we'll probably chop in a range. And then what will happen is we will then move to the next level, 596, 594, so on and so forth. So as you know, I chart on the daily, then I chart on the 4 hour. Let me expand that so you can see a little bit better what the 4 hour looks like. And then when you have such huge aggressive candles where these 4 hours are just literally insane, you have to then come back with some interim levels on a lower time frame, which is why I was using the 1 hour where you could see we rejected it. Then they used it as support, rejected it. Then they flushed it. Now we're back between these two lower levels. So again, we got to get above and go higher, break below and go lower. Let's take a look at a couple of names that are going to be reporting earnings this week. The first one is going to be Nike. I don't know that I would take a trade on this. If you recall, I did take a trade on the last earnings and it was a loser. So I just don't know if the new CEO is really going to be able to give any commentary or any thought. But if you're going to try to just play this up to earnings, not the earnings itself, I would definitely try to wait for a bounce at 76.74 with some momentum up to 79, thinking that they're going to try to chase this higher. So earnings is until Thursday. So you'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Remember, Wednesday is FOMC, but what I'd like to see is this come down here, 76.74, and then you could take a long position up to maybe the 79 calls, maybe the 80 calls. Can't necessarily say that I would hold it through earnings because, again, if they disappoint or they give more excuses, this thing is going to be dropping right back down to here where we were at 72, where I think, again, you can get long some overall equity. One of the other ones that's going to be reporting this week is going to be FedEx. So you can see FedEx, and I'm going to go to a 4 hour time frame on this one, but you could see we had a pretty well-defined support line all the way back starting here in October. It held in the 23rd of October. It held November 6th, and then they broke it, and they were never able to reclaim it. So what would I be looking for on this one? Well, again, we have earnings this week, which is going to be, yet again on Thursday. So here's what I would watch. I would watch this one for a potential fib. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a fib from the high to the low, and then I would expect that the market will try to chase 293.08 to the upside on an earnings, right? Most stocks will rally into earnings, and then if you want to go long in calls and you're seeing some momentum, this would be my target for the calls, okay? I don't think that I would wait for it to get here and reject unless it happens very, very quickly. Although looking at the past several days, it looks like it's got a rounding bottom and it's getting a little bit of momentum. So if you see this continue, I think you can play some calls. If it gets up here in a quick hurry, definitely I think you could play the reject to the downside. One of the other ones I talked about was the home builders. So you can see this was trading at 171 and now we're at 130. So you want to talk about a 20-25% haircut. Quite the drop across the board. And what's impacting the home builders, more importantly, is interest rates. So the yields continue to move higher, which means mortgage rates are not coming down. And then let's just take a trend line on this one, and you'll see that it broke this long term, which is going all the way back to 23. And then we're here in 24. Now we have broken it. you can see that we definitely have weakness. Would love to see a push-up, and I don't know that you're going to get it, but a push-up a little bit higher and maybe 136, 136.50, and then for us to head lower. Now, do note that this MACD is pretty much severely running to the downside, which means you're probably also going to get a bounce. So let's just do a little bit of quick supply and demand, and I'm going to expand this so you can kind of see why I don't have a lot of optimism, is that these timelines are only 45 minutes, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We don't really get into some major hourly, 2 hour time frames until we get down here to 127. So this one, I definitely think I would keep on my list as a potential short, depending upon how the market is opening on Monday. Again, we have supply that's forming to the upside, and we only have 45 minute, and 1 hour. So I would target probably the 130 put, and I think you would be good to go. But we start to lose 130, then I definitely think we are clearly headed lower. So keep an eye on that one as well. Let's take a look at the chips. So let's start with AMD. This one, I had a potential long position up to 130 this week. Literally, it sold off on the market open, and then it reclaimed, moved right back up to 130. We are in heavy demand on this one, but again, note, it's very weak, 45 minute, 30 minute. So we start to have more weakness in this. I would look to go short with a target of 121, which is my overall, I believe this was a 4 hour, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a look. No, this is the daily. So if you go down to the daily and you look at the daily low on this, 121, I think that's the ultimate target. We drop below 121, and then I think it's lights out, and we're heading back down here, probably toward $100 a share. So is that going to be highly probable? No. But you got to just remember, psychologically, this was where there was a lot of consolidation to the downside, right around 100, before it exponentially moved higher. So keep AMD on your watch list. I think that's going to be a little bit safer to trade, and it's also been much weaker than NVIDIA. So you could see we held the level, we dropped, we retested, right? We failed it, we're pushing back up to it, and then we are heading lower. So I really do like this one to the short side if we see some weakness in semis. And then let's take a look at NVIDIA. And this one has been holding strong, yet it's having, again, a little bit of a challenge. So I think people are finally realizing that this thing is not going to 170, 180, and therefore they have been starting to sell out of this and rotate out of it into some of the other sectors. Now, when we look at NVIDIA, again, supply and demand, we are in overall demand. This is stronger, so 3 hour, 1 hour, 3 hour, 1 hour. I don't like to fight that with puts. So if you see a bounce or you see some momentum, we only have 30 minutes supply here, which is nothing. So if you see momentum, I would definitely ride this back up to VWAP, right? 129.64, and we get above VWAP, then I definitely think we're going back up here to this prior pivot, 133. So keep this as a potential long, and it is not inconceivable that you have AMD going in one direction and NVIDIA going in another. So the other thing that I've been doing is dual screens, where I was watching literally my NVIDIA on one chart. So a quick way when your charts are, not aligned, just click this little A, and then it will unclick it, and then it will move you to where the current price is trading. But what I would do is I would have NVIDIA right here, and then over here, I would have AMD. And then you can watch them simultaneously. You could watch which is in supply, which is in demand. So here's a real good example. This is in demand. This is not yet to demand. So this will have more weakness to push lower before this one will, because the buyers are already sitting here, right? The buyers are all the way down here. And again, it's a weak buyer subset. So we flushed this 124 again, I think it's lights out down to 121. So play the weaker of the two. Don't play the stronger one, right? There's a lot of buyers here at 3 hour. Does it mean that they're not going to get eaten up? No, it's highly probable. And you guys know that this is volatile, so it's going to move quicker. But I think this is the go-to one, because if you're going to be in a chip, they'd rather be in Broadcom or they'd rather be in NVIDIA. They don't necessarily want to be in AMD, which was the prior darling of Wall Street. So just some things to keep on watch this week. Again, remember, overall volume is going to be fairly low. Let's just look at this on a daily basis real quick. And let me move some of this away so we can see. We also have a gap to the downside on SPY. Don't think we're getting there, but you could also see from a seasonality perspective, August, we had really good volume. We had some good volume here in September. And then what is it doing? The volume is actually declining now that we're getting closer to the holidays. So even though the market is moving up and down, it's doing it typically on less volume. Friday was a little bit higher than where we've been, but keep an eye on this. And if you look, for the most part, it was lower than where we've been the majority of the days over the prior quarter. So as volume drops, you're going to get some more sporadic price movement. And then if we look at QQQ, let's do that one. Volume here has actually been increasing to the upside as it's made new all-time highs. So I would love to see some of that momentum kick to the downside. But again, don't fight the trend. So you can see even on the MACD, we are solid green. Let me go back to SPY. We are in the red. So there's some weakness here, but there's still strength in the Qs. So again, the trend is your friend. Don't fight it. And with that, everybody, have a really good trading week, and we will all talk soon. Take care.